The movie is set in 2007 as the war was winding down and Bush had declared victory and rebuilding operations were in effect. Dressed in camouflage, Sergeant Alan Isaac, Izzy, and Staff Sergeant Shane Matthews were doing recon for a potential sniper in a kill zone. They see 6 construction workers and their 2 security escorts shot dead at the pipeline, sprawled all over the sandy, middle of nowhere desert. In the vast nothingness, the only thing that can be seen is a heap of garbage, a fragile-looking short brick wall, and the victims' bodies and their abandoned vehicles. As they have been on recon mission for more than 20 hours, Sergeant Shane was bored and he was also tired of surveilling the stillness. He insists to his partner that the reason they don't see anyone is because there's no one to see and that the perpetrator is probably long gone. In contrast, Sergeant Izzy strongly suspected the assailant may be a professional Haji, and so is well equipped to camouflage himself well without so much as his shadow showing. As evidence for his suspicion, Izzy points out that it seems all the victims died from a precise professional single headshot and that none of the victims' bodies appear to be near something resembling a shield, indicating that the shots had to come as quick successive surprises. Sergeant Shane isn't buying it, and he jokes with the possibility of this being the work of Juba, an elusive, extremely dangerous professional assassin with many US soldier casualties to his name. Sergeant Shane urges for them to go back and to rejoin their unit, claiming no one, especially no Haji, could hide well for this long. He then decides to leave his perch to grab one of the security escort communication radios, which he used to report this incident on, before making the final call to head back to their unit. Against his partner's advice, he proceeds to lose his camouflage and starts walking down to the casualties in the open field. Sergeant Izzy chooses to stay back and give some visual support. They continue to engage in a friendly banter over their radio as Sergeant Shane goes deep into the clear sandy field. Sergeant Izzy confides that he still uses Dean's malfunctioning scope for sentimental reason. Dean was their brother-in-arms who'd passed away. Sergeant Shane mocks him about all this as he walks further into the stillness and grows more confident that they're alone and whoever committed the murders had probably escaped already. Sergeant Shane gets closer to the fragile-looking wall and Sergeant Izzy's scopes gets foggy. He goes around checking the victims and is shocked to learn that they all appear to have a head wound, just like his partner suspected. Sergeant Shane freaks out, getting the sense that something wasn't right. Izzy tells him to rush back to his perch for cover as he's exposed, but it was too late as Sergeant Shane gets shot from absolutely nowhere. What's worse is that Sergeant Izzy regrettably misses to locate the origin that the shot had come from because he was clearing his scope. Panicked, Sergeant Izzy runs into the open field towards Sergeant Shane, who is screaming and begging for him to take cover as a hail of bullets is raining upon them, of which one just misses Sergeant Izzy and the other blows his kneecap. He then desperately runs toward the fragile-looking short wall, half of which crumbles as he jumps over it. Sergeant Shane is injured and is lying in the open where he was shot, and he asks Sergeant Izzy to call for extraction. Izzy tries to do so, but soon realizes that the sniper had hit his radio antenna, rendering it basically useless. Shane passes out from the shot, and Izzy manages to remove the bullet from his knee, tourniquets and bandages his wound, and then passes out until he's woken up by a voice coming through his radio. It appears his captain from his command post is on the other end of the radio, hoping to check for their status. After exchanging the proper procedural secret codes to identify each other, Sergeant Izzy reports their situation. He's got a man down and is taking fire from the enemy, who he hasn't managed to pinpoint yet. He then requests for medical evacuation, and after further exchange for identifications, he's told to stand by for the arrival of support. A brief silent moment elapses, and he then reaches out to the command post again, and he is asked to procedurally identify himself once again. After doing so, he reiterates his and his partner's situation and requests a medical evacuation. He is then told he needs to give his challenge code to initiate his request. Izzy is confused and tries to identify who he is speaking to, and the speaker identifies himself as his captain, Captain Otis Simmons, and gives some details of the nature of their overnight mission to prove it. Izzy calms down and advises the captain to bring a heavy escort, and there's a silent lapse again, which really bothers Sergeant Izzy. The voice on the radio then asks him if he could fire into the air so that they will be able to locate him when the medical evacuation team gets there. Izzy gets even more confused now and hesitates to follow with the request in fear of accidentally revealing their position to the sniper. He shares this reasoning with the voice on the radio, but the speaker is persistent that he needs his help to pinpoint his exact location. While they were discussing this, Sergeant Izzy notices a slight non-American accent on the voice talking to him from the other end of the radio, and he asks him about it. The voice replies with a very thick Arabic accent and pretty much confirms his suspicion that the sniper has intercepted his communication with his command post. Izzy panics and tries to reach the command post himself, but to no avail. The sniper gives Sergeant Izzy an ultimatum. Either they converse with each other and get to know one another, or he will shoot Sergeant Shane dead. He then starts asking Sergeant Izzy personal questions. Izzy refuses to answer, but keeps him talking while he tries to locate him using the scope he placed in between the bricks of the wall. Through his scope, he gets a better view of the abandoned construction trucks of the victims and the heaps of trash along the sandy field. He tries to calculate the location of the sniper from the angles of the shots, and he continues to peer through his scope and learns that one of the security escort victims had a communication radio hanging from his bag. He keeps the sniper, who sounds like somebody who's acquainted himself well with the Western culture, talking while he tries to work out how to safely leave and grab the victim's bag. Izzy continues to refuse to talk about his family, but the sniper then threatens him to talk about his comrades, or he claims that he will shoot Sergeant Shane's head off. He then goes on to ask him about Dean by quoting from the conversation Sergeant Shane and Izzy were having about Dean back at their perch. Izzy refuses to get into that line of conversation and diverts his attention by telling him casual information like how he and his comrades play ball in the afternoon and get baked in the Iraqi sun now that there's no war to fight anymore. To Izzy's irritation, the conversation keeps going and the sniper boasts about his own shooting accuracy, and he keeps on commenting on the ironic nature of the fact that the American soldier is hiding behind the very wall that his country came to knock down. Meanwhile, Izzy inspects the bullet that he was shot with and suspects that it might be US issued. The sniper keeps on rambling, baffled about being labeled a terrorist, while in fact he believes the Americans are the actual terrorists, having come to his country and having camouflaged themselves in his soil. While the sniper talks, Izzy notices a background noise that hints that the sniper may be on the move. He keeps him talking while he checks out the perimeter through his scope, and Izzy notices some movement in the heaps of trash and locates the sniper there. He realizes that the sniper must have spent days in the trash to remain invisible. It then dawns on him that he's actually dealing with Juba, the Angel of Death, who had terrorized and evaded them while racking up so many casualties to his name. He also realizes that this Juba must have taken US military training before successfully using it against them. Juba continues the morale and principle discussion, and he demands to know more about Dean and if Sergeant Izzy is still here because of him. Izzy shares that he and Dean were from around the same area and that their families knew each other very well. Izzy puts his helmet and jacket over his weapon to prop it over the wall to bait the sniper to shoot while he monitors through his scope to try to work out the sniper's location. But he fails, especially as the sniper sees through the ruse. Izzy finally manages to limp and run forward to the security escort and grabs the victim's radio with his bag, and he runs back. He barely makes it back safely to his wall as the sniper shoots at him multiple times and just misses him but takes down half of the brick wall in the process. Izzy feasts on the energy bar and rehydrates from a water bottle that he found in the victim's bag, but is disappointed to find out that the radio that he risked his life for is out of commission. As the sniper mocks him for his foolishness in taking such a risk, quoting Edgar Allan Poe, his radio keeps breaking up and Izzy can only make out half of what the sniper was saying. He peers through the shot down section of the brick wall to see and realize that the interception was coming from Sergeant Shane's radio, indicating that Sergeant Shane was regaining consciousness. Izzy was excited to learn this, and he shouts and talks to him over the distance and informs him about the location of the sniper in the trash heap. He relays the distance and the angle necessary to make an accurate shot from Sergeant Shane's spot. Izzy gets the sniper talking to him to occupy him, and the sniper reveals that he'd studied English and was a teacher in Baghdad before a bomb hit his school and he lost all his students. Meanwhile, over the distance, he shouts over to Sergeant Shane to move slowly and smoothly to grab his gun lying next to him and warns him not to move too fast and catch the sniper's attention. Lying face down on the ground, Shane moves his arm slowly to grab his weapon. To keep the sniper's attention focused on him, Izzy starts telling him about his legendary captain that trained him to survive and who he hopes would come to rescue them. He also desperately continues to share the story of Dean's death to keep the sniper interested. Shane is now on his elbows aiming at the trash heap, and Izzy accidentally tells Sergeant Shane to move slower without turning off his radio, which gets the sniper confused about whom Izzy was talking to. Izzy tries to disguise this and starts shooting in the air continuously, blowing sand every which way. Through this distraction, Shane manages manages to take multiple shots at the trash heap, hoping that one would get the job done. But the sniper returns fire and catches him in the shoulder. Izzy begs the sniper to please let Sergeant Shane go, as he was shot and not a threat to the sniper anymore. He then shouts to Sergeant Shane to keep crawling toward him in the wall as fast as he can, and Shane does so, but the sniper shoots him dead just a couple of feet away from Sergeant Izzy. Izzy was devastated, then the sniper demands to continue chatting and wants to know why Izzy is still there despite the war being over. Izzy then confides in him that he blames himself for Dean's death. Moments later, the crackling voice of Captain Albright from the Mobile HQ reaches Sergeant Izzy. He was excited and starts identifying himself and rank when another voice, the sniper's, beats him to it. He disguises himself as Izzy and reports that Shane is stable and that there's no sign of the shooter in the last hour, and he asks for evac convincingly. Izzy at this point was feeling frustrated and hopeless, and as the dusk was approaching, Izzy hears helicopters coming by. He then grabs Sergeant Shane's weapon with a rope and pushes over the brick wall and shoots at the trash heap multiple times out in the open. Izzy hopes that he finally got the sniper as there's no response from him, and the two evacuation helicopters land and Izzy is given medical support, but just as they were taking off, they start to take fire and the evacuating soldiers attempt to call in for help, but they get hit one by one. The helicopter crashes, and in the last scene, the command center tries to reach the helicopter to check their status, and a voice answers using proper identification procedure, even though it seems that none of the soldiers have survived the crash. And this is where the movie comes to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave me a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap.